Good evening. I want to talk with you about something I believe is woven deeply into the fabric of our humanity, the struggle we often feel within ourselves. It's the battle that doesn't show up on the outside, but inside it's very real, and it affects how we live, how we love, and how we dream. Each one of us at some point has felt the weight of this struggle. We ask ourselves, why am I feeling this way? Why is it so hard to find peace within? Tonight, I want us to explore 9 reasons why you might be struggling within yourself, not as a way of placing blame or finding fault, but as an act of compassion, as a step towards freedom. So let's walk through these reasons together, one by one, like friends on a journey to understanding. When we think about past wounds, it's easy to imagine they're like physical scars that fade with time. But emotional wounds are different. They don't just heal with the passing of days or years. Instead, they sit quietly within us, influencing how we feel, how we think, and how we move through life. These wounds can shape us in ways we're often not even aware of. They linger in our hearts, sometimes buried so deeply that we don't even recognize they're there, but they make their presence known in how we respond to the world around us. Imagine for a moment that we're carrying around invisible suitcases packed with our past pains, every heartbreak, every betrayal, every time we were let down or hurt. Each one is a heavy weight in those suitcases. And just like carrying something heavy for too long, these unresolved pains start to wear us down. They show up in our relationships, in how we trust, and even in how we dream. For some, the weight of unhealed wounds means holding back from truly connecting with others, fearing that letting someone in will only lead to more pain. For others, these wounds translate into self-doubt, a quiet voice whispering, "You're not good enough. You're not lovable. You're not worthy." But what makes these wounds even more challenging is that they're often buried. We might have pushed them down to survive difficult times, to get through the day. We might have told ourselves it's in the past. It's over. I don't need to think about it anymore. And while that's a natural response, that pain doesn't go away simply because we stopped looking at it. It continues to influence us from behind the scenes, steering our actions, our emotions, and our sense of self-worth. Unhealed wounds can also create a sense of shame. We might blame ourselves for what happened or believe that the pain is somehow a reflection of our own inadequacies. And shame has this incredible way of silencing us. It keeps us from sharing our experiences, from reaching out for help, from allowing ourselves to feel the full range of our emotions. We end up suppressing what we feel, putting on a brave face and pretending we're okay. But deep down, that shame and unresolved pain create an inner tension, a struggle within ourselves that's hard to shake. These past wounds can become patterns too. We might find ourselves in situations that repeat old pains as if we're drawn to them unconsciously. For instance, if someone felt abandoned in the past, they might find themselves fearful in relationships, always expecting to be left behind. They might push others away as a form of protection, not realizing it's the past speaking through their actions. Healing past wounds isn't easy, but it is possible. It requires courage, the courage to look at the hurt without judgment and to give ourselves permission to feel and to release. It often involves forgiving not just others, but also ourselves. It involves letting go of blame and recognizing that the wound doesn't define us. Healing is about stepping into our power and reclaiming our lives, one step at a time. This journey of healing is transformative. When we take the time to address these old pains, we reclaim parts of ourselves we didn't even know were lost. We begin to open ourselves up to love, to trust, and to joy. We realize that our true essence is not defined by the hurt we've experienced, but by the resilience we've shown. And that resilience, that power within, is what gives us the strength to heal and to grow. Healing isn't about erasing the past, it's about integrating it, making it part of our story without letting it hold us back. When we release these unhealed wounds, we make space for peace, for self-compassion, and for the freedom to become who we were always meant to be. Fear of being vulnerable is something that touches many of us at a fundamental level. We live in a world that often equates vulnerability with weakness, encouraging us to hide the parts of ourselves that are raw, uncertain, or imperfect. We're taught to keep it together, to put on a brave face, to guard ourselves so that others don't see our insecurities, our fears, our wounds. But in doing so, we end up keeping ourselves locked away, disconnected from others and ultimately from ourselves. Vulnerability is the act of showing up fully, of saying, this is who I am. Here is my joy, here is my joy, here is my pain. But fear has a way of stopping us in our tracks, telling us that letting down our guard could lead to rejection or hurt. And this fear isn't unfounded. Maybe we've opened up in the past only to feel dismissed, judged, or even betrayed. So we learn to hold back, to build walls around our hearts as a way to protect ourselves from being hurt again. This fear of vulnerability often stems from our need for acceptance. We want to be seen and loved for who we are, yet we're terrified that if others see our full selves, our struggles, our mistakes, our true feelings, they might turn away. So instead, we show only parts of ourselves. We put on masks that hide our true emotions, making sure we appear together or strong. And while these masks can shield us from potential rejection, they also prevent us from experiencing the profound connections that only vulnerability can create. There's another side to this fear that's equally powerful. We're sometimes afraid of our own depth. Vulnerability forces us to confront our inner truths, our hopes, our fears, and even our own insecurities. It calls us to look at the places within ourselves that we may have buried. But going to those places can feel uncomfortable and at times overwhelming. We fear what we might discover about ourselves. We fear the parts of us that feel wounded, uncertain, or imperfect. And so we avoid vulnerability to avoid facing the fullness of our humanity. However, the irony is that vulnerability is the birthplace of true strength. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we open the door to authenticity. Vulnerability allows us to be seen for who we truly are, and in doing so, we give others permission to do the same. It creates a bridge of understanding and empathy, connecting us on a deeper level. When we risk being vulnerable, we are showing tremendous courage, the courage to be real, the courage to let others in, and the courage to embrace ourselves, flaws and all. But the fear is real. It can make us feel like we have to protect ourselves, like we need to be our own fortress. This instinct to protect can keep us from sharing our dreams, from asking for help when we need it, and from letting others see us at our most raw and authentic. In relationships, it means we don't fully open up, don't express our true feelings, and keep a part of ourselves guarded. In our careers, it can mean staying in our comfort zone, afraid of pursuing our true passions out of fear of failure or rejection. And in our personal growth, it means we don't explore the depths of who we are because we're afraid of what we might find. The journey of overcoming this fear of vulnerability isn't about becoming tough or invulnerable. It's about gradually allowing ourselves to be seen and to experience life fully, knowing that we may sometimes feel exposed. It's about recognizing that vulnerability doesn't make us weak, it makes us whole. It lets us step into relationships with openness, to connect with others deeply, and to live in a way that's true to who we are. When we embrace vulnerability, we find freedom. We realize that by being fully ourselves, we can attract people and experiences that are truly aligned with us. We give ourselves the grace to be human, to have highs and lows, and to learn from every experience. In the end, vulnerability is a gift that we give to ourselves, a gift that says, I am enough just as I am, and I am worthy of love and connection. It is in daring to be vulnerable that we find not only our strength, but also a profound sense of inner peace and fulfillment. Negative self-talk is a powerful force that can shape our entire experience of life, often without us even realizing its full impact. It's that inner voice, sometimes subtle, sometimes loud, that tells us we're not good enough, not worthy, or that we'll never succeed. This voice is deeply ingrained in the human experience, and for many, it becomes a constant background noise, a harsh and relentless critic that accompanies us wherever we go. But where does this voice come from? Often, it's the accumulation of past experiences, old criticisms, or beliefs we've absorbed from others. Maybe we were once told we weren't capable, or maybe we grew up in environments that placed intense pressure on us to be perfect. Over time, we internalize these messages, and they begin to play on a loop in our minds, shaping how we see ourselves and what we believe we're capable of achieving. We start to repeat phrases like, I'm not smart enough, I'm not attractive enough, or I'll never be successful. These words become beliefs, and these beliefs start to feel like truths. The problem with negative self-talk is that it's incredibly limiting. It holds us back from taking chances, from dreaming big, and from embracing life fully. When we constantly tell ourselves that we're not good enough, it affects how we show up in the world. We might shy away from opportunities, avoid relationships, or settle for less than we deserve because we don't believe we're worthy of more. Negative self-talk creates a kind of mental prison where we become our own captor, blocking ourselves from potential joy, growth, and fulfillment. What makes negative self-talk so tricky is that it often disguises itself as realism or being practical. We might think we're just keeping ourselves grounded or managing our expectations, but in reality, we're placing limits on what we believe is possible for us. We're talking ourselves out of the lives we could be living, and because these thoughts have been with us for so long, they feel familiar, even comfortable, like an old sweater we can't quite bring ourselves to throw away. But comfort isn't the same as peace. Just because a thought is familiar doesn't mean it's true, and it doesn't mean it's healthy. One of the most destructive effects of negative self-talk is its impact on self-esteem. When we constantly criticize ourselves, we start to believe that we're fundamentally flawed. We think that we're somehow less than others, which leads to feelings of shame and inadequacy. And when we carry those feelings, it colors everything we do. We might stop taking pride in our accomplishments, or we might brush off compliments, thinking we don't deserve them. Negative self-talk chips away at our sense of self-worth, and over time it can make it difficult to feel joy, to celebrate ourselves, or even to love ourselves. The language we use in our minds is powerful. Words have energy, and when we consistently feed ourselves negative words, we are feeding a negative energy within us. It's like planting seeds in a garden. If we plant seeds of doubt, fear, and inadequacy, that's what will grow. But if we start to plant seeds of kindness, self-acceptance, and hope, we open ourselves up to entirely new possibility. Shifting from negative self-talk to positive self-talk isn't about ignoring reality or pretending everything is perfect. It's about choosing to treat ourselves with the same kindness and compassion we would offer to a dear friend. Changing negative self-talk requires awareness and patience. It starts with noticing the negative thoughts as they come up and gently questioning them. Asking, is this true? Is this true? Is this thought serving me? Can begin to break the cycle. It might feel uncomfortable at first because we're so used to accepting these thoughts as fact, but with practice, we can start to create a different narrative. Replacing negative self-talk with affirming, compassionate thoughts doesn't mean we won't ever have doubts or struggles. But it does mean that we can approach those doubts from a place of strength rather than fear. It's about shifting from I'm not enough to I am learning and growing every day. It's about replacing I'll never be able to do this with I'm going to give this my best shot and see what happens. This shift doesn't happen overnight, but with each small, intentional change, we begin to rewrite the story we tell ourselves. Ultimately, overcoming negative self-talk is about embracing our humanity, our imperfections, and our potential. It's a journey of reclaiming our minds and choosing to be our own ally rather than our own worst critic. When we free ourselves from negative self-talk, we open the door to greater self-love, resilience, and inner peace. And that shift has the power to change not only how we see ourselves, but also how we experience the world around us. Disconnection from personal purpose is one of the most common yet deeply unsettling feelings a person can experience. Purpose isn't just about having a goal or a plan, it's about understanding why you're here, what unique gifts you bring to the world, and how you can live a life that feels meaningful to you. When we lose that sense of purpose, we can feel adrift, like a ship without a compass, vulnerable to the currents of life's challenges without a clear direction or destination. This disconnection often happens gradually, almost without us noticing. Life pulls us in so many different directions: work responsibilities, family obligations, societal expectations. We may start making choices based on what we think we should be doing, rather than what aligns with our deepest values and desires. Over time, these small compromises build up, and we find ourselves feeling distant from who we truly are. We may wake up one day realizing we're working jobs that drain us, maintaining relationships that don't nourish us, or living a life that doesn't reflect our true spirit. This can lead to a deep sense of emptiness, of going through the motions without any real fulfillment. One of the reasons people struggle to find or reconnect with their purpose is because they believe it has to be something grand, something worthy of praise or admiration. We might think that purpose has to look like a big career, a huge impact, or a widely recognized talent. But purpose is not about size or scale, it's about connection and authenticity. It's about feeling that what we're doing and who we are aligns with what matters to us. Purpose can be as simple as a commitment to kindness, as quiet as a passion for creating art, or as personal as raising a family with love and intention. When we lose sight of our purpose, it can create a void within us that's hard to fill. This disconnection often manifests as restlessness or a sense of dissatisfaction that doesn't go away, even when we're achieving outward success. We might find ourselves chasing after material things or temporary pleasures, hoping they'll fill the emptiness. But without a sense of purpose, those things are like trying to quench thirst with salt water. They may satisfy for a moment, but they leave us even more parched in the long run. Another challenge in reconnecting with our purpose is the fear of change. Sometimes discovering our true purpose may mean letting go of a path we've been on for years or challenging the expectations others have of us. If we've invested time, energy, or resources into a certain lifestyle, career, or identity, it can be daunting to consider shifting directions. The thought of starting over, of stepping into the unknown, can make us hold back. But staying disconnected from our purpose often comes with an even greater cost, a life half-lived, with parts of ourselves unfulfilled and unexplored. Reconnecting with personal purpose often begins with self-reflection. It's about getting quiet, asking ourselves the deep questions, and being honest with what we find. Questions like, what truly brings me joy? What would I do if no one else's opinions mattered? What do I want to contribute to the world? Are powerful guides. Sometimes we might not have immediate answers, and that's okay. Purpose is less about having one clear destination and more about embracing the journey of self-discovery and alignment. For some, purpose may shift and evolve over time. What feels purposeful to us in one season of life might look different in another. It's important to stay open to these changes, to allow ourselves the freedom to explore new directions. Purpose isn't a rigid, fixed thing. It's a living, breathing connection to what brings meaning and fulfillment into our lives. Giving ourselves permission to explore, to try new things, and to pivot when we feel called can help us stay aligned with what feels true for us in each chapter of our lives. Another important aspect of reconnecting with purpose is surrounding ourselves with people who support and uplift us. The right relationships can encourage us to pursue our passions, to live with intention, and to remain true to ourselves. When we're around people who value us for who we are, it becomes easier to listen to our own inner voice, to trust our instincts, and to make choices that align with our purpose. But when we're surrounded by negativity or constant judgment, it can be harder to connect with that inner calling. Living with purpose doesn't mean we won't encounter obstacles or experience doubts. It's not about having all the answers or never feeling lost. But when we are connected to our purpose, we find the resilience to move through challenges with a sense of meaning. We feel grounded knowing that what we're doing matters, even if it's just in a small corner of the world. Purpose gives us something to hold on to, a sense of direction, even when the road is unclear. In the end, finding purpose is about coming home to ourselves. It's about listening to what truly resonates with us, honoring the gifts we have, and daring to live in a way that reflects our authentic selves. It may take time and it may require courage, but the reward is a life that feels rich with meaning, connection, and a sense of true belonging. Reconnecting with our purpose allows us to live not just for the day-to-day, but for a vision that calls to us, making each day feel like a step towards something beautiful, something true. Comparison and envy are deeply rooted experiences in the human journey, often arising before we even realize they're there. These feelings are almost automatic, as if hardwired into us by the world around us, and they can be so subtle at first, a fleeting thought, a passing glance. But left unchecked, they can grow into a force that impacts not only our self-worth, but also our relationships, our dreams, and our sense of inner peace. The origins of comparison often lie in our upbringing, our environment, and the society we live in. From a young age, we're placed in situations that measure our success, our worth, and even our happiness against others. It's in the grading systems at school, the competitive sports fields, and eventually in the career ladders and social media feeds that define so much of modern life. This constant exposure to comparison begins to shape how we view ourselves and what we think we should aspire to. And when we feel that we don't measure up in some way, envy can creep in, making us feel as though we're somehow lacking or incomplete. Envy is particularly harmful because it creates a lens through which we begin to see our lives as less than. It clouds our ability to appreciate what we have and warps our sense of gratitude. When we're constantly comparing ourselves to others, it's as though we're telling ourselves a story that we're not good enough, that we're missing something essential. We may start to feel like life is a race, one where others are always a step ahead, and that feeling of falling behind brings an emotional weight that's hard to shake. What we often don't realize is that the stories we tell ourselves during these moments of comparison are only half-truths. We see a glimpse of someone else's success, someone else's joy, and we assume it's the whole story. But in reality, we're often seeing only the highlights, the polished versions of other people's lives. Social media is a prime example of this. People tend to share their victories, their proudest moments, and their happiest times, but behind every perfect picture or exciting announcement, there's often a more complex reality that we don't see. And yet we measure our full, messy, authentic lives against these curated glimpses, feeding the cycle of comparison and envy. One of the most damaging effects of comparison and envy is the way it shifts our focus from our own path. When we're so busy looking at what others have, we lose sight of our own gifts, our unique journey, and the progress we've made. We might start setting goals based on what others have achieved, rather than what truly resonates with us. We might dismiss our own successes because they don't look like someone else's. This can lead us down paths that aren't even meant for us, keeping us from discovering our true passions and purpose. Furthermore, envy can harm our relationships with others. When we feel envious, we may find it difficult to celebrate the successes of those around us. Rather than feeling happy for a friend's promotion or a sibling's new relationship, we feel a pang of resentment, as though their gain somehow reflects our own inadequacy. This feeling can create distance between us and those we care about, making us feel isolated and even lonelier. Envy breeds a scarcity mindset, the belief that there's only so much happiness, success, or love to go around, and that mindset makes it hard for us to truly connect with others in an authentic, supportive way. But there is another way. Instead of letting comparison and envy dictate how we feel, we can use them as guides, signals pointing us toward areas in our own lives where we may feel unfulfilled. Envy can sometimes reveal our own hidden desires, the dreams we may have buried or not fully acknowledged. When we see someone who has something we want, rather than allowing envy to make us feel inadequate, we can instead look at it as an invitation to explore what truly matters to us. Perhaps their success reminds us of a goal we've been afraid to pursue, or maybe their joy reflects something we too are seeking. This awareness can be the first step toward creating a life that feels aligned with who we truly are. Practicing gratitude can also be a powerful antidote to envy. When we consciously focus on what we already have, it helps us to see our lives through a lens of abundance rather than scarcity. By making a habit of appreciating the little things, the friendships that uplift us, the progress we've made, the opportunities we've had, we start to realize that our lives are already rich in ways that matter. Gratitude reminds us that we each have unique blessings, experiences, and opportunities that make our lives meaningful. Cultivating self-compassion is another crucial part of overcoming comparison. Recognizing that it's natural to feel envy at times and that it doesn't make us bad or ungrateful allows us to process these feelings in a healthy way. When we're compassionate toward ourselves, we're able to let go of the harsh judgments that comparison often brings. We can accept that we're all on different journeys with different timelines and that each journey has its own challenges and rewards. Ultimately, freeing ourselves from comparison and envy means turning inward, reconnecting with our own unique path, and learning to trust that we are enough just as we are. When we stop measuring ourselves against others and start focusing on our own growth, we find a sense of peace and contentment that comparison could never give us. We begin to recognize that there's room for everyone's success, that life isn't a competition, and that our own journey has meaning and value independent of anyone else's. In letting go of comparison and envy, we open the door to a life filled with gratitude, self-love, and a deep sense of inner fulfillment. It's a journey of returning to ourselves, of celebrating our own path, and of embracing the unique beauty of our own lives. We find that there's more than enough joy, success, and love to go around, and that we can fully appreciate the journey we're on just as it is. Reliance on external validation is a common struggle that shapes much of our sense of self-worth and confidence. From a young age, we're encouraged to seek approval from parents, teachers, friends, and society as a whole. This approval often comes in the form of praise, rewards, or recognition, which makes us feel valued and important. We begin to associate our worth with how others perceive us, and over time, this external validation can become the foundation of our self-esteem. But the problem with relying on external validation is that it's fragile, fleeting, and ultimately out of our control. It creates a cycle where our sense of worth is only as stable as the latest praise we've received, making us dependent on others for feelings of confidence and fulfillment. Reliance on external validation is a common struggle that shapes much of our sense of self-worth and confidence. From a young age, we're encouraged to seek approval from parents, teachers, friends, and society as a whole. This approval often comes in the form of praise, rewards, or recognition, which makes us feel valued and important. We begin to associate our worth with how others perceive us, and over time, this external validation can become the foundation of our self-esteem. But the problem with relying on external validation is that it's fragile, fleeting, and ultimately out of our control. It creates a cycle where our sense of worth is only as stable as the latest praise we've received, making us dependent on others for feelings of confidence and fulfillment. One of the reasons reliance on external validation is so powerful is that it taps into a deep, universal need to feel seen, accepted, and loved. As social beings, we naturally seek connection and belonging, and validation can feel like a form of acceptance. When others acknowledge our talents, our appearance, or our accomplishments, it feels good. It feels as though we're being welcomed, that we're fitting in, and that we have a place in the world. But while validation from others can temporarily boost our mood, it's not a sustainable source of confidence or self-worth. When we rely too heavily on it, we begin to lose touch with our own inner sense of value, making it harder to find fulfillment from within. Relying on external validation can lead us to compromise our true selves. When we're constantly seeking approval, we may start adjusting our behavior, choices, or even our beliefs to align with what we think others will approve of. This can happen subtly, without us even realizing it. Maybe we choose a career that others respect instead of one that aligns with our passions, or we hold back from expressing our true opinions because we're afraid of judgment. Over time, these small compromises add up, creating a version of ourselves that's molded by others' expectations rather than our own authentic desires. We may wake up one day feeling disconnected from who we truly are, unsure of what actually matters to us. This reliance on validation also makes us vulnerable to the opinions and judgments of others. When our self-worth is tied to external approval, any criticism, rejection, or even indifference can feel like a personal failure. We start to internalize negative feedback, believing that it reflects something lacking within us. This can lead to a sense of insecurity and a constant fear of not measuring up. We become so focused on meeting others' standards that we forget to set our own, making us susceptible to the highs and lows of others' perceptions. It's like being on an emotional roller coaster with our confidence rising and falling based on the reactions of others. The age of social media has amplified this struggle. With platforms that constantly invite us to share our lives and receive feedback in the form of likes, comments, and followers, we are more exposed to external validation than ever before. This can create a cycle of dependency where we post something online and eagerly wait for the likes and comments to roll in, feeling validated by each one. But this form of validation is often superficial and short-lived. It creates a craving for more, leading us to share more, perform more, and measure ourselves against the polished, highlight reel lives of others. We start to compare our own lives, achievements, and appearances, using the number of likes or followers as a metric for our worth. The irony is that the more we seek validation from others, the more distant we become from our own sense of worth. We become so accustomed to looking outward that we forget to look inward. We forget that true self-worth is an inner experience, a quiet confidence that comes from knowing who we are, what we value, and what we're capable of. When we're constantly seeking approval, we miss out on the opportunity to build this inner confidence, and we begin to lose touch with the parts of ourselves that are truly meaningful. Overcoming a reliance on external validation requires a shift in focus from looking outward to looking inward. It starts with self-awareness, with noticing when and why we seek others' approval. It's about asking ourselves, why am I looking for validation? What am I hoping it will give me? This awareness helps us recognize the areas where we might feel insecure or uncertain, giving us a chance to explore those feelings without needing external approval to fix them. Cultivating self-compassion is also essential in this journey. When we treat ourselves with kindness, we begin to see our worth as independent of what others think. Self-compassion helps us forgive our mistakes, accept our imperfections, and recognize that we're worthy simply because we are. It's about being our own source of validation, telling ourselves, I am enough and I value who I am, even when others may not give us that recognition. This inner kindness creates a foundation of self-worth that doesn't waver based on others' opinions. Another powerful step in releasing the need for external validation is reconnecting with our values and passions. When we focus on what truly matters to us, on the things that light us up and bring us joy, we're less likely to seek approval for approval's sake. Our energy shifts from trying to prove ourselves to simply enjoying life and living in alignment with our values. We start to make choices that reflect our true selves rather than what we think will impress or please others. This realignment brings a deep sense of fulfillment, a feeling of being whole that no amount of external praise can replace. Building a sense of inner validation is a lifelong journey, one that requires practice, patience, and self-reflection. It means being willing to stand firm in who we are, even when the world around us offers mixed messages. It's about recognizing that we don't need to earn our worth through others' approval. We simply need to own it within ourselves. When we stop relying on external validation, we reclaim our power. We begin to live from a place of authenticity, confidence, and inner peace, no longer swayed by the opinions of others, but guided by the quiet assurance that we are enough just as we are. In letting go of the need for external validation, we open ourselves to a deeper, more lasting sense of fulfillment. We become free to express our true selves, to take risks, and to live in alignment with our own values. We find joy in the journey of self-discovery, in the process of becoming, and in the realization that our worth has always been within us, waiting to be acknowledged by the one person who matters most, ourselves. In conclusion, the journey of understanding and overcoming the internal struggles we face is a deeply personal and transformative experience. Each of the 9 reasons we've explored: unhealed past wounds, fear of being vulnerable, negative self-talk, disconnection from personal purpose, comparison, and envy, and reliance on external validation, represents a unique challenge that can hold us back from fully embracing our authentic selves and living a life of fulfillment. As we navigate these challenges, it's essential to remember that acknowledging these struggles is the first step toward healing. Each reason serves as an opportunity for growth, a chance to dive deeper into our emotions, our fears, and our desires. By recognizing the patterns that contribute to our internal conflicts, we empower ourselves to make conscious choices that align with who we truly are. It is important to cultivate self-compassion and to remember that it's okay to seek support from others on this journey. Whether through friendships, mentorship, or professional help, we don't have to walk this path alone. Surrounding ourselves with understanding and uplifting people can help us gain perspective and inspire us to pursue our own journeys with courage and authenticity. Ultimately, the journey of self-discovery and healing is not about perfection, but about embracing our wholeness, flaws and all. It's about recognizing that we are all beautifully imperfect beings, deserving of love, acceptance, and understanding. As we learn to heal our past wounds, embrace vulnerability, transform our self-talk, reconnect with our purpose, celebrate our unique journeys, and cultivate a sense of inner worth, we will find ourselves living more authentically, with greater joy and deeper connections to ourselves and others. So let us commit to this journey of self-discovery, letting go of the burdens of comparison, external validation, and negative self-perceptions. Let's choose to honor our individual paths, celebrate our progress, and recognize the strength and resilience within us. Each step we take toward understanding ourselves better is a step toward a more fulfilling life. Remember, the journey may be challenging, but it is also beautifully rewarding. Embrace it with an open heart and know that you are worthy of all the love, happiness, and fulfillment that life has to offer.